Jonah, I think we're going to be out of a job. Have you heard that AI is taking over?
No, I haven't.
Yeah, well, AI,
What is it?
there's big YouTubers who are too lazy to get off their asses and post their own content, so they decide to get AI to do it. Yeah, there's some people who can't get a real girlfriend, so we just AI. So I think that means we're out of a job.
It's okay. I think I might know. Oh yeah, no, I've seen like insane stuff going around.
Yeah, you know what I think also is going to happen? Sports are going to be out of the picture. Yeah.
Well, just make them up. Just make video AI recording stuff like any kind of sport, I guess. And there you go. That replaces the
Austin
real
Matthews? No, robotic Matthews. William Nylander? No, 3CPO. Anyways. Yeah, so we're out of a job. I'm excited for the AI invasion of 2025.
Welcome everything, I guess, whatever.
Welcome to the Concession Stand podcast. Welcome to the Concession Stand podcast. Today, many things have happened in the world of sports. I am Carter, and I'm one of the co-hosts, and I'm joined by my other co-host. Finish it.
Friday Gaming.
W.
just Friday Gaming.
That's a dub. So we are here. We are back. The ALNNLWC, figure out the acronyms for that, have finished up earlier this week. When did they finish? Wednesday, because every team got 2-0.
Because everyone got, because they all ended 2-0 sweeps.
So the Jays aren't the only one to suck, apparently. Anyway,
all of them lost 2-0.
Have you,
same with the Rays, same with Marlins and Brewers.
Oh, I wanted the Brewers. Loki, I was excited for the Brewers. Anyways, now that you know that, you can tell where this podcast is going just by the title and the thumbnail. The Toronto Blue Jays have become the new Toronto Maple Leafs. Welcome for another 19-year drought. If any of you saw my second channel video over on my Tendy2, little self-promo there, you've learned my new favorite team will be the Oakland Athletics, because they probably have a better chance of making the World Series, let alone winning it.
Soon to be Las Vegas.
Oakland in my heart. I'm a newfound fan. It's Oakland in my heart.
They're gonna leave Oakland like, I don't know, whenever, year 2 or 3.
Probably.
They're not staying.
When they move, guess where they're going? To the World Series, because it's going to get rigged against them. Anyways, Toronto Blue Jays get 2-0 swept against the A's in some very, very controversial fashion. How do we start out with the A's? The Twins. The Twins. I'm sorry, my new favorite team's in my head.
Okay, I'll just take it over. The Toronto Blue Jays, they got swept 2-0 by Minnesota Twins in the American League wildcard game, which means they are eliminated from the playoffs already. Like literally 2 days in, they're gone already.
Absolute sham.
Yeah, gone almost as soon as it began, just like last year and just like 2020. Not really surprising when you really think about it, because, oh Lord, there was so much wrong with this team. There was so much wrong with it, like, the entire year. Like, this was honestly, like, really predictable. I didn't expect anything else.
It baffles me how this team. First off, they shouldn't even have made it to the playoffs after the last year.
They only shouldn't. They only made it there because what? Hey, 12-team playoff. The extra wildcard slot. They wouldn't have been there if that didn't existed. And also, they wouldn't have been there if the Mariners didn't self-destruct in September.
Anyways, I'm not gonna beat around the bush anymore.
I
want to get right into this. I'm gonna move my pop filter for this. Fire Ross Adkins. Fire John Schneider. Fire Guillermo Martinez. I just don't like him. He made the Jays horrible. Fire the entire coaching staff, other than maybe Pete Walker. Because the amount of pain that has gone into this team, the amount of suffering because of horrible, horrible coaching decisions, and a GM who has taken no responsibility for it, highlighted by their press conferences earlier today or yesterday. I don't know when this is going up.
Okay. I think before we get into that, I think it may be just worth explaining, I guess, what actually happened first with the games before we dive into that, because this is new stuff. So let's just get with the old stuff first. So the Blue Jays, they had a lot of expectations this year, maybe World Series. I mean, even though they were incredibly disappointing last year, I mean,
they were contenders. They're like the Leafs. They're contenders, but no one knows who's going to get it that far.
And they're incredibly streaky and inconsistent the entire year long. They have a great, fantastic pitching staff that their fielding and defense is great, but the offense just regressed so incredibly hard.
Other than
the offense just regressed a lot. Everyone was struggling badly. I mean, I wouldn't say they were necessarily struggling every game. They were also very inconsistent. There would be games where they could maybe score 10 runs or more, and then there were often be games where they scored 0. So I didn't have much hope, and especially after there were no trades made at the deadline, no real big moves. I mean, I might as well get to that when we talk about Ross Atkins in particular. But they go into playoffs. I mean, everyone thought they were going to not make it when they got swept by the Rangers in like 4 games and crushed by them, but then they somehow still made it in because, well, the Mariners self-destructed during that entire period. And I didn't expect much, even though on paper they should have won. They were literally gifted on paper a pretty easy opponent, the Minnesota Twins. Like, they won AL Central just because no one else wanted to. That's it. They weren't even that good. They won it. No one else was interested in it.
Say Saturday, right?
They won even less games. Yeah, it's Saturday. They won even less games than the Blue Jays did, even though they were in such a god awful division. Where like there was like 2 100 loss teams, I believe.
Yeah, something like that.
And whereas the worst team in the American League East had like 84 losses, and that was the Red Sox. And even the Twins had still had fewer wins than the Blue Jays, even though they were in like a much, much weaker division. And they were also incredibly flawed. I mean, they were a very beatable team, and honestly, those games kind of showed that they were pretty beatable. But all the issues that everyone's been screaming at for the last several months
came to
were
light.
Just exposed for their fullest. They couldn't hit. Or actually, no, wait, sorry, that's a lie. They actually got more hits than the Twins in both games, 1 and 2. Like, they got more hits than the Twins. They out him. It didn't matter because they were almost always singles, except for like 1 extra base hit, I believe.
It was 1 extra base hit that was thrown up on the screen before like the 9th inning.
Yeah, that was just one.
Go, what?
Everything else was just singles, and I think they were something like I need to bring up. I don't remember the exact statistics, but like they were god awful with the batting average was just horrific when they had runners in scoring position, which again was
the Blue Jays
a constant theme the entire year. And I think overall they had left 18 runners on base the entire series, 9 each in both games 1 and 2. So 18 runners left on base in both games. And then you also got to consider they lost game 1 3-1 to Minnesota, and then they lost game 2 2-0.
Can we talk about why?
And 18 runners left on base, 9 both games, and they lost by only just 2 runs in each.
Can we talk about why they
lost? It wouldn't take much for it to flip around and be a 2-game sweep. It wouldn't take much to have it like flipped completely on its head.
Let's quickly talk about why they lost game 2. I think, which is where the the myth, issues, the legend himself, like, John Schneider, gets thrown into this.
Mm-hmm. Oh yes. So Jose Barrios, the guy that they're paying like $18 million a year now since he got like a big money contract extension. he's doing very well. He's gone for like over 3 innings. Like he's dominated his old team. And at 47 pitches, I think he lets in a walk, and he's gone. He's taken straight out of the game. And then Yusei Kikuchi comes in, who hadn't pitched in the bullpen at all that year. Promptly surrenders 2 runs, and that proves to be it. That's a difference because they didn't score any runs themselves, so that basically already doomed them already. And yep, they lose the game 2-0. They're eliminated, and yeah, it causes quite a controversy over that one decision.
Do you want to talk about John Schneider's playing? How many games he's played in the minors or the majors?
Actually, how many has he played?
He played 6 seasons in the Blue Jays organization, including 4 seasons with the AAA Syracuse Chiefs back in whenever.
Well, like games like he personally played.
Yeah, he played in. He debuted 2002. He hit 23 home runs. He never got his cup of coffee in the majors, and he was still put in to coach a team. That's depressing. Then again, John Gibbons.
I don't know. I mean, John Gibbons was only like maybe had like 6 games in the majors.
Yeah, but he's a genius. He's a genius.
Like I don't think you don't necessarily have to have had like a good playing career to be a good manager, but like
you're right. Look at Wayne Gretzky. He's the opposite. He was a great
player.
Opposite.
He's a great player. He's a terrible coach. Like, well, he's horrible in Arizona, but like, he's just. I don't know. I feel like it was just a bad decision, and like my first thought when I saw the whole thing was that like this might actually be one of the dumbest decisions I've probably seen. The only one that was maybe rivals that was in the 2016 American League wildcard game when it was, I think, Buck Showalter, who was Orioles manager at that point. I think he had a choice. I think it was in like the 10th inning, I believe. And that was against the Blue Jays, of course, and they had their biggest bats. He had a choice. He could have gone with Zach Britton, who I think was like had like a sub-1 ERA that entire season. Actually, no, sub 0.5 or something like that. He was like a Cy Young candidate. Or he had Yabal Jimenez, who was like
lanky.
not bad, like bad, just bad. And he went with Jimenez, and of course he surrendered that 3-1 home run to Edwin Encarnacion, and
man, that was
they
so
gone. They eliminated.
That was so long.
That was 7 years ago. Also, the last year that they won a playoff game too. I feel like I must add.
Yeah, Game 4, the ALCS. Sorry, I did put that in my video too. That was a little stat.
It was just an insanely bad decision.
A lot of
47 pitches. He wasn't even in the game for very long. Like, it was only 47 pitches. And
what's worse?
I was trying to wrap my head around why why that would be made. Like, and I think my best guess was like, I wasn't sure if it was the third time for the order thing or whatever, but no, I think it was must have been because I guess his splits were significantly worse against lefties than righties, I believe.
In
like
baseball, when it comes to the postseason, and if your guy's cooking on the mound,
you
don't take him out.
You don't take him out.
You don't take him out because
especially when he's only on like 47 pitches.
Maybe if he's the 7th, okay, and he's kind of like 3 or 4 times through the order where he has to
fair. That's fair. Or if you like, of course he's let up very early in the game, then you want to take him out. But but that's not it. He gave up a walk. That was it. Like that one walk, and gone.
He gave up 3 hits and 1 walk. Now, I have a question. What's worse? As I saw this floating around on Twitter like the day after. John Schneider pulling Jose Barrios after 47 pitches. Or Kevin Cash pulling Blake Snell in the World Series in the 6th inning.
I'm still going to go with the Cash one, just because it was the World Series itself. I think just because it was the World Series itself was on the line rather than, like... I mean, it's still very bad, like, an elimination game, but that was an elimination game, but in the World Series.
Yeah, there was, like...
And that was probably worse, just... that's why I think it's more comparable to the Showalter one in, like, 2016, because, I mean, that was still a similar kind of situation. It was in the wild card round, but, like...
I just saw that one floating on Twitter. I'm like,
It still
that'd be,
completely like
that'd be great to
destroyed
ask.
them. I'd still go with Cash like easily, just because the stakes were much higher than with Schneider.
Well,
That's just me.
yeah. The one thing that I laugh about and I want to bring back to the press conference. I'm not gonna pull up the quote. Jonah, you're the research guy. You probably could find it somewhere. Um,
I don't know. I think
Ross
I'm just
Adkins.
so. I think before that, I think John Schneider he had his own press conference, and he seemingly, I don't know, maybe didn't take responsibility for it, and I guess seemingly implied that maybe it wasn't his original idea to Paul Jose Barrios that early
Which
on.
is what I think everyone
Um,
thought when it first came
like I
out.
think yeah, everyone did think that okay, this is such an insane decision that it probably wasn't him who made it. Like overall, maybe it came from the it had to probably come from the front office. Maybe it was the analytical department.
Yeah,
But at the
that's
end of the
front office.
day, my first thought was, well, he's the manager.
Yeah,
He's the one who the buck stops with him. He's the one who makes the final decision on all those matters, not the front office. It's him, and he went along with it. So that's why I felt like that's fireable right there. And regardless, but then we get Ross Atkins, who had his own press conference.
Oh, Ross Adkins,
just
you remind me too much of Kyle Dubas.
earlier today. He had his own press conference. And
Oh my
good
god.
God, it was such a chaotic
That his press conference alone was fireable.
it was such a chaotic mess.
Jonah's gonna look for the quote itself. He pretty much put the entire blame on John Schneider.
It didn't take responsibility either.
Yeah, zero responsibility. He also mentioned that the guys who are in free agency, Chapman, Belt, Kiermaier, kind of the top three. You know, it was great having them around. Hope they enjoy it. It was pretty much great having you, but we're not getting you back. Like
I think it was initially. I think he said something like, "Oh, he implied that we'll miss them or whatever." Like, does that mean they're just gonna
they can
leave?
let them walk.
But then he later backpedaled and said that they would try to bring them back. I mean, I don't know. If I were them, I'd not go. I'd not show up. I would not re-sign with them.
If I was named in that, as much as I love
they
the
were
Jays,
chaotic,
get out.
like dysfunctional mess. So I think John Schneider initially had said something like that. What was it like that? Maybe I think he kind of tried to, he was careful with his words, but I can't find what he said specifically, but I think he had kind of suggested like that maybe it was not exactly him who maybe cooked up the idea overall, which again, as I said earlier, would make a lot of sense.
Yeah.
But I think I found the Ross Atkins quote here. Here we go. I'll just read out what it says. So here it is. So quote, as it relates to the meeting, those meetings are John Schneider's meetings. He has a group of individuals that he prepares with every day. His process, routine, his preparation was no different that day. The group is the staff that's on the field. It's not the front office. I do not attend these meetings, and I certainly do not make those decisions. When that decision occurred, I found out about it when you did. End quote.
So if here's my question: you go back and you watch the game, and he gets pulled. Barrios gets pulled, and the camera shoots to Mark Shapiro and Ross Adkins in their fancy ass booth or press box somewhere. Mm-hmm. And they look like they're not confused, but it also looks like they're not watching the game. It kind of just looks like, why are we here again? Like you watch, and there's no confusion around their like, what is this? Why is he pulling them? No this, no that. It's just okay. Well, okay. What's this sport again?
Yeah, and I think it was not just that. I think he also did kind of also say that, no one in the front office takes part in John Schneider's meetings, and basically, he insinuated that he had nothing to do with it. No one in his analytical department or the front office had anything to do with it. It was solely 100% John Schneider, which kind of contradicts what Schneider himself said.
So they're throwing blame at each other.
Yeah, no one's taking accountability. They're both.
Oh my god! It sounds like
basically blaming each other for it, but themselves.
Sounds like a grade 3. Argument. No, I didn't do it. He did it. No, I didn't do it. He did. Like, you're adults in a professional sport. Shut up. Somebody take responsibility. Come out and say it was both of our
And
decisions,
apologize for it, like,
and go with that.
admit you screwed up, and just move on. But no,
Both of you did a dumbass decision costing your team the win, and go from there.
Mhm.
At this point, I saw a Rogers ad right after that, and it was like the proud sponsor of the Toronto Blue Jays. Like, oh, you shouldn't be proud at that point. You're paying these guys.
Actually, no, they're not the sponsors. They're the owners.
Proud owners
It's
of the
actually a
Toronto
lot
Blue
more.
Jays. I'm like, get rid of them.
The owners.
Get rid of the people who you're proud of.
Oh god, so like, and even after he basically threw John Schneider under the bus, he did also say that he will be back with the Blue Jays for next year, 2024.
So all I'm hearing is we're getting screwed over again. That's the basic long or the short of it.
Oh, so basically, this guy screwed up and made a big mistake, and I'm throwing him under a bus and saying that's all his fault. And I had nothing to do with that. And also, he's coming back next year.
He was so bad,
completely dysfunctional.
So bad that he cost us the loss. By the way, he's also coming back next year, and he's going to be paid even more money. And yeah, like actually disgusting from Ross Adkins. Whoever is it. Shapiro, who's in charge of Adkins?
It's Mark Shapiro, who's the
Get rid of him.
Of baseball operations.
Get rid of him.
He's the one who's basically like the one at the top that will make all decisions of like GM hirings and whatnot. He's I think supposed to have a press conference himself on Thursday, I believe.
Shapiro should be fired. Like seriously.
Oh, this is going to be interesting.
If you can't manage if you can't manage a team, and then they're like high offices, time to find some new people.
I mean, I don't think Shapiro himself will be fired, and I'll get to that myself personally later. But for now, I just want to overlook Ross Atkins' whole tenure as the general manager. So he's been the general manager since the end of the 2015 season and heading into the 2016 season. So that's like what, eight seasons now, I believe.
Yeah,
in charge. Yeah, 8 seasons. He has one wild card victory in 2016 over the Orioles, and
which,
of course,
by the way, doesn't count
which
under his name because he did none of the trades, none of that.
He was technically in charge. He was in charge during the time, so it will be like attached to his name. But that was with Alex Anthopoulos' players, not his though. Like those players were not his. Obviously that whole core flamed out like almost immediately afterwards, and then they went tanking in like 2019. But then of course in 2020, well, it was a 60-game season, and of course they lost 2-0 to the Rays. But look, I'll give them the benefit of the doubt on 2020. You might as well just throw that in the trash. It was the 60-game season, pandemic shortened. Honestly, I'm not going to really count that.
Yeah, the Dodgers have a Mickey Mouse ring. I'll stick with that.
And, like, nobody expected the Blue Jays to do anything that year, so I'm going to give them the benefit of the doubt and not include those 2 losses against the Rays against him, because that just wouldn't be fair at all. So I'll just focus on the years after that, because I think those are perfectly fair.
Actually,
2021.
I don't want you to remind me. I don't want you to remind me. I don't want you to remind me of last year. 2021. No, yes.
Okay, 2021. Phenomenal hitting core. Certainly, probably one of the best they'd ever established. Probably, comparable to 2015, with Donaldson, Encarnacion, and Bautista. I'd say it's comparable to that. But they were, I guess it was like the pitching was inconsistent throughout the year. The only like real solid, the most solid guy they had was like Robbie Ray, and that was it. Everything else was just incredibly questionable. They didn't really get going until September, and by then it was already probably too late. They dropped a crucial series to the Yankees, and then of course they were eliminated on the very last day.
Yeah, which was heartbreaking as a fan.
But like there was still optimism. There was still optimism around that point because they had a hitting core, even though they lost Marcus. They were obviously going to lose Marcus Semien, the free agency, of course, and Robbie Ray as well. There was still a lot of optimism because look at how good the hitting core was. Like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. had like 48 home runs. I mean, would have been the MVP if Shohei Ohtani did not exist.
Watch Shohei get MVP this year too.
And, like, yeah, he's gonna win it probably like easily, like without question. And like Marcus, I mean, I think he set the record for like home runs by a second baseman, I believe. But it was quite something. Like obviously they're losing him, but the hitting core, everyone else was still like really great though, so no one expected that to change. And they did bring in Kevin Gausman. They did overall improve the pitching. But and of course, I feel like I must bring up the infamous, and I think it's fair to call it infamous quote, by one Vladimir Guerrero Jr., in which I think it was it last year. It was just a trailer. This is the movie. Like 2021 was the trailer, 2022 is the movie, and that movie. I'm trying to think, what's a good movie that like everyone had a lot of hype on and completely flopped.
No.
Oh. The Flash movie this year. I don't know.
Nobody had hype
I don't know
around
if there was
that.
any.
What movie?
I don't know if there was hype around that. That was a complete flop. But I don't think there was hype around it. I mean, everyone. I was just trying to think.
Yeah, I know. It's weird.
Because that year, I think they were like the World Series favorites. Actually, I think a lot.
No, it's like the Cyberpunk.
As, like the favorite. Like it was. Yeah, I guess closest thing. I mean, I guess it's video game, sure, but like. Cyberpunk was immensely hyped, and it was a complete broken mess from launch. And
literally broken.
The Blue Jays,
like the Blue
were
Jays.
just a mess. Like they never were consistent. They disappointed. They were supposed to easily win their division, go to World Series. Of course, they didn't win the division. Rays beat them out to it, but they still nonetheless had a very favorable position. They did get the top wildcard spot, which meant they would host the free game series. And what do you know? They happened to get the Seattle Mariners, which was their first, which was a tormented franchise that had not even made it to the playoffs in like 21 years at that point. I don't certainly not an easy one, but if the Blue Jays like actually tapped into their potential, you know, maybe it would work out. Of course, game one, Alek Manoah lit up.
Yeah,
even though he was like a Cy Young contender that year. Yeah. And then game two.
Okay, I'm gonna be honest with this. I was watching it, and then my girlfriend said, like, we had tickets for Colts game, and she goes, okay, and I'm sitting there watching it as I'm leaving, and I get there, I'm like, oh, what's the score? And then we're sitting up. I don't know if it's been a while.
It was like I think 8-1 was where they were up.
Yep, it was 8-1 when I was leaving. I was like, we're safe. I get down.
I think like what? And Kevin Gausman had like a great pitching performance with the game on the line. I think he was also taken out like way too early.
He was taken out way too early. So I get in, I sit down in my seat, and I'm getting ready, and I look up, and it's the AV booth, and they have the Jays game on. So I'm like watching it. My girlfriend's like, "What are you doing?" I go, "They got the Jays game on." She goes, why are you watching it? Like, I'm like, because the hockey hasn't started yet. And she goes, okay, you can watch it until the hockey starts. Person in front of us pulls out his phone and starts watching the Jays. So I have an even better view right in front of us.
Yeah.
And I'm like kind of peeking down and watching the Leafs or the Colts. I'm peeking down, watching the Colts, and then I'm watching and then I see the downfall, I would say, of that is when Bo and Springer collide. That was that was as heartbreaking as 2015 in Kansas City.
Yep.
The dropped easy out.
But like, I mean, that was bad enough, but then the whole bullpen itself completely imploded at that point. Like, I can't remember who the hell was even in that game. Like, pitching wise, but like everyone involved, like especially the bullpen after they pulled Gausman, like just completely fell apart.
So what I'm hearing is keep nobody your starter in. They will win.
Nobody could get anything going. I think one of them might have been Anthony Bass.
Wow, it's been a while since I've heard his name.
Yeah,
it's been a while since I've heard his. Last time I heard his name, it wasn't for a good reason.
Yeah, it was all of them were lit up, and of course, they completely choked it. An 8-1 lead and lost like 10-9. Eliminated. Mariners ecstatic. Why wouldn't they be? It was their first playoff series win in like 21 years, and that was the most humiliating choke since the Leafs choked the 3-1 lead to the Montreal Canadiens a year earlier. Like
Or the
in the 66 game season or whatever, like however long it was, like I completely choked that.
so long of a short of it is keep your starters in. Fire John Schneider for making horrible coaching decisions.
I mean, they weren't going to fire him just for that because, like,
He should.
I think he was still the interim manager at that point, and like the team did improve after like they fired Charlie Montoya when they were incredibly streaky and inconsistent.
I remember,
and they did
seemingly
right. Yeah, they did seemingly right the ship. After they fired Montoya and put in John Schneider, and like obviously he was not that was not the initial plan. They were expecting to just waltz through to the World Series. So you know what, fair. I mean, he stabilized it, so I mean, it makes sense to give him another year, or 2 or 3 or how they give him like a couple years. It was like 3 or 4 or something. And also Ross Atkins himself got extended to like 2026 after they missed the playoffs in 2021. Now we get to 2023.
Hooray!
The current year.
Can I talk about Schneider real quick and how he consistently pulled his pitch other than Bassett. Other than Chris Bassett pulling his pitchers 4 innings, 5 innings, 5 innings, 6 innings.
Or Chris Bassett got like to 8 or even complete games.
Yeah, he would throw complete, and he's perfectly fine. You would have like guys on a tear. Kikuchi pulled after 4 innings. Kikuchi 5 innings. He'd be throwing great game. Barrios when he wasn't hurt and he was throwing well early. Gosman early, and it's like, what is he doing? And then you start then you go to the playoffs. Barely. By the way, I want to talk about celebrations after. You go to the playoffs. All of a sudden, second inning, you see Yusei Kikuchi, which, by the way, hasn't pitched from the bullpen in a year.
Not all that year.
You see him warming up in the second, and then he's supposed to come into the third, and then Barrio says, no, let me pitch one more. Whatever happened with that. And then he comes in the fourth with the runner on, which how long has it been since he's pitched out of the bullpen with a runner on? When was that? I want to find that stat. I don't want to look it up, but I want someone in the comments to tell me that stat. What goes through your mind of planned or not, no baseball? It's just baffles me.
I might as well just dive down to this whole year. So the Blue Jays, I guess they had some expectations, although I guess they were a lot more muted after the complete catastrophe that was last year's playoffs. And they never seemingly got going at all. Like in 2022, they did seemingly play better when Schneider was in. In 2021, they found their form in September, but by then it was already too late. This year, they never found it at all. They were like streaky all the time. They would go on these win streaks, they go on these cold streaks.
I think one of the rare things is that the pitching was actually
relatively
good. That was decent this year.
Actually, I think they actually had the lowest team ERA in the out of all 30 teams,
which is
the best in the league.
Very rare for the Jays because usually the problem was the pitching.
Literally every year, like all the time, it was the hitting that carried them, and the pitching was always what held them back. That's why they missed the playoffs 2021, of course, but like this time around, roles reversed.
Other than Manoah, which is a whole story in his own, which. Whatever.
That was quite a spectacular, almost like disaster in that.
It was actually impressive how much he imploded.
Mm-hmm.
He made the Heisenberg look, or the blimp,
like the Hindenburg. I think.
Yeah, the Hindenburg.
Yeah, Hindenburg.
He made the Hindenburg look good.
Mm-hmm. Whereas, like everyone else, like they had a solid core, like. Of course, Kevin Gosman, Jose Barrios bounced back after a horrible season, like in 2022. He bounced back completely. Yusei Kikuchi was actually good for once, which is not something he had really ever been at all.
He should have been a Cy Young candidate.
And of course, Chris Bassett, who was also incredibly solid too. And even Even then, they had like later on, they did get Hyunjin Ryu, who miraculously recovered from Taichan's surgery fairly quickly to like quickly fill in as a stopgap when, of course, Alec Manoa got demoted for the final time and did fine in that role. I mean, he's probably leaving too, but I mean,
he did his job.
He did his job. He did what he was supposed to do.
Just.
And the defense too was like a lot better, and they, of course, I think the loss last year, and especially the collision between Bichette and Springer, it traumatized the front office because all the moves they made were seemingly an attempt to improve the team defense. I mean, bringing in someone like Dalton Varsho, whereas getting rid of guys that were more sketchy defensively, like Teoscar Hernandez and Lourdes Gurriel Jr.
Which, by the way, I want to bring up Gabriel Morat, whatever his name is, who they traded. Yeah, who they traded in the Varsho trade.
Didn't he actually do like really?
He did amazing.
For the Diamondbacks against the Brewers. I think
he got a home run in the wild card, which none of the Blue Jays could do.
Well, no, none of them could score one. None of them hit a single homer.
I think he scored more runs than the entire Blue Jays combined, which is saying something. Game.
None of them could score runs. Honestly, the only guy I think who may have gotten who could have ever hit a home run, but of course he was injured, was probably Danny Jansen, because he's the one guy that kept showing up.
Oh my God.
Every time in the playoffs, like in 2022 and in 2020. He was the only guy who even like did anything in 2020. If he probably would have hit another home run if he was there, but no, sadly he was injured, of course. But
only indestructible.
But like, yeah, they were a complete mess. I mean, like hitting wise, but like pitching was great. The start pitching, even like the bullpen itself was like much better. I mean, I know people. I know he was kind of rough down the stretch, but I mean, there's a reason Jordan Romano was like the close, of course, and then of course he had some other guys that were hit or miss. Though I guess like Swanson was fine. Yumi Garcia was like whatever. Trevor Richards was really bad.
Yeah.
And Anthony Bass was really bad and also cut.
That's funny.
Like so I think the bullpen was more of a mixed bag, but then they did bring in Jordan Hicks,
which
that's probably
is good. Chad Green.
Chad Green, I mean, yeah, is another solid, yeah. But then of course there was the offense. So they basically like seemingly sacrificed that just to get good defense. Because I don't know what the hell happened, but literally nothing went well at all. Like with the offense, like at all. Everyone just regressed significantly. The only guy who you could even argue maybe was solid-ish was, I guess, Bo Bichette, but he think like he had the most hits, but he was also hurt for a while too. And like we've seen him better before, and but then of course what was really striking was, I think, Vladimir Guerrero Jr. So I actually found this interesting statistic. I know everyone's kind of sick of analytics.
Analytics are fine until you use them in a game, is what I'm going with.
Yeah. Okay. I think the most noteworthy thing was that I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr., according to Fangraphs, had like fewer wins above replacement than Davis Schneider. You know, the guy who was like
that's actually
only
depressing.
Played like 40 games, something like that, or 50 or whatever, and also had like an over 30 streak. But because he had that brief 2-week stretch where he was hitting like Babe Ruth.
Davis Schneider,
in his prime.
I want to mention this. The only reason he had a streak is because he was hammering the ball right at people.
Mm-hmm.
It's not like he was sitting there swinging and missing strike. He made hard, good contact, and then it would just be ironically right to the second baseman. It was just like right to the first, third baseman.
Terrible luck, basically, for all the time. But even during that stretch earlier, he was literally hitting like Babe Ruth in his prime almost.
It's just
it was just ridiculous, and you know what? They probably wouldn't have been. They wouldn't have been in the playoffs if he didn't randomly emerge. Same thing with guys like Ernie Clement and Spencer Horwitz that just popped up out of nowhere for like a few weeks and were like hitting really well instead of the guys who they were counting on
throwing money at,
like Guerrero or Bichette or Springer.
There was a video I saw, and it was comparing Vlad now to his home run derby this year. And it was one of the things where it's like he gets up there and it looks like he's trying to think he's trying to outthink baseball.
Mm-hmm.
He goes up in the home run derby, he's only thinking hit the ball.
Mm-hmm.
Like now it's like, okay, he's sitting there, he's like, okay, I need to kind of pull it this way because my coach, by the way, Guillermo Martinez, leave, scram, Batman, get out of here, nobody likes you.
Mm-hmm.
He gets up there and he's like, okay, there's a runner on second. I probably should try to hit it to the left center gap or maybe right center. I can try to push it for a double. And it's like, why are you, hit the ball? You're getting paid money to smack the ball, to pull it, hit some kid in left field while his dad's chugging a beer as you hit a home run. Like, what are you doing thinking, oh, I need to hit a ground ball up the middle. I need to try to see if I can hit a gapper in right center. Like, shut up. Hit the ball far. That's your job.
Mm-hmm.
And if your hitting coach is telling you to sit there and think about the ball, work the no. Tell him, shut up. I'm getting paid big dollars, more than your entire family's net worth combined, to hit the ball to the moon and then hit the Martian on the moon, bro. Like, if I don't hit Elon Musk space Tesla,
home runs,
I'm doing something wrong. And then after the home run derby, so all of a sudden, oh yeah, I got to hit bombs again. So he hits 4, 5, 6 in a row, and then I don't want to hit home runs anymore.
This is the one after. And I think one thing that kind of gets lost in all this, because predictably, everyone's focusing on the whole polling for Rios after like 47 pitches. Because, I mean, yeah, sure, that technically was the turning point in them losing, but they were probably screwed even if they kept him in, because no runs that entire game. One run in game one. I mean, not just because of the anemic hitting, like only singles, one extra base hit, but they were completely horrendous, like running the bases that series and the entire year.
I don't even want to talk about the Vladdy pickoff. It was,
I mean, first was like, we thought this was the most egregious thing in game one, when Bo Bichette blew right past Luis Rivera's like signal and went straight for home and got predictably thrown out.
And here's the thing, though, I was thinking about it, and I was listening.
I was overshadowed.
I was
the following day.
Oh yeah, but I was listening to a podcast. It was a Gate 14 podcast, and they're all Blue Jays guys. Mm-hmm. And he was thinking, and as angry as, and they kind of talked it through, and it was as angry as everyone was. If you really think about it, there is a little dribbler hit up to third base, and the third baseman misses it. Carlos can't pass a physical. Correa has to make a perfect throw home to get Bo Bichette. In Bo's mind, he's thinking, of course I'm going home on that. It makes sense. He's coming in the back of the ball. He's moving it the wrong way. Correa just absolutely piped him at home. Like, it was a beautiful play by Correa, and honestly, kind of smart base running by Bo. If he messed up, that's a run. That's a big if, because
I don't know, but I think he was given the signal to like stay, so that was just,
well, absolutely he was
selfish. Like, he probably should have just stayed there. There's probably a reason why he was held up, and of course then there's Vladimir Guerrero Jr. getting picked off right when like they had a golden opportunity to tie things up or take the lead. Of course he gets picked off, and like we never know what would have happened there.
Which, by the way, if you're on second base and you can't hear the second base or the shortstop, maybe take a step back towards second base so you don't get picked off. Wow. Yeah. Like, don't have a big of a lead. Maybe be more ready. Anyways, I want to talk about something that...
I don't know. I just... Like, everything was so, like, messed up. They lose in 2 games, so now that's... Technically, if we include 2020, they've lost 7 straight playoff games, and now since the Minnesota Twins, which heading into this had like lost 18 games in a row and hadn't won a single game in the postseason since 2004. Now I think it's the Blue Jays that own the record of like most consecutive playoff games lost. I think they may have it tied with the Rays. I'm not sure about that. It was either they were tied with the Rays or they were like one ahead of the Rays. Because of course, they got swept, and that was a different story. They just got completely annihilated by Texas that entire time.
Oh yeah. Like
there wasn't even a
the
contest.
second game was like, okay, call it the game at this point.
Honestly,
Like,
I'd have rather that
should have
just
been in
happened.
effect.
I'd have rather that happened than have lose the series to a very beatable team. And like even in game 2, Sonic Curry was like not at his best.
No.
They just couldn't hit it where it really mattered, I guess.
I want to talk about real quick. When baseball teams clinch a playoff seed, they celebrate, like they win an F1 race.
I mean, I guess that's tradition. I think they always do that, even if they get a spot. Even though, like,
spray. Okay, you go in, you have a couple beers, you go around, you thank the fan. Okay, sure. You spray champagne though.
They don't do that in like.
Doesn't make as much sense.
Okay, they don't do that in like. I don't think they even do that in what NHL or NBA when they clinch playoff spots. They kind of. I don't think they do that. I think they only reserve that for when they actually win the championship itself.
Yeah, they go around, they might have a couple beers, celebrate a little bit, dance, whatever. They're not going to, like, throw an entire, like, end-of-the-year party because of it, like the baseball. Mm-hmm. Which is, anyways, that's my little harp. Like, it's stupid, but I think we should move on.
Of course, they came off of, like, losing a series to the Rays. And
I think that's what makes it worse. That's what makes it worse.
When they were basically tanking, I guess, to get the Twins, even though... I don't know, the Rays, I mean, that whole series with Texas kind of...
They should have faced the Rays at this point. I wish they faced the Rays.
They'd still probably lose, but, like, the Tampa Bay Rays, I think, had said I think was on Instagram where we were saying that, like, they're incredibly flawed themselves, and they're battered by injuries, and I mean, like, what was it that top pitchers out with injuries, some hitters are gone with injuries, and of course their best hitter, I'm not gonna get into that, why. I think it's well known.
I talked about him
with him.
I talked about him in my personal relations class, and everyone thought he did stupid. Anyways, I want to move on before we start.
So like overall, I'll just briefly get into one more thing. What I think should happen, and what I think will happen. I mean, I guess if it were up to me, I think most of these fools would all be gone. Like. Ross Atkins, gone. John Schneider, gone. Shapiro, gone. Every hitting coach, gone. Honestly, I think most of them, except for maybe, like, Pete Walker, gone.
First base coach is fine.
Like, yeah, sure.
Don Mattingly,
most of them, most of them, like, need to go. And as for Schneider, I think it's possible he might still leave, regardless. But like
they need an even bigger.
I think if they actually missed the playoffs, he definitely would have been gone.
Oh yeah.
So it was kind of like that might have been a terrible thing even making it in the first place. But do I think Russ Atkins will go? No, I don't think that will happen because like Mark Shapiro and him have been like tied at the hip for forever. I think they've been working together since like 2001, I believe. Like they were both in Cleveland from like 2001 to 2015, and then they both went to Toronto together. So I don't think Shapiro would ever cut him loose. Like he's his drinking buddy essentially. So like, why get rid of him? And Shapiro himself, I don't think the upper management would fire him because. Look at the stadium renovations. I mean, look at the attendance is going. Look at the attendance; those are still fine. And
Shapiro's doing his job, other than firing Atkins.
I don't know. I mean, Rogers mainly would only care about making a profit. They don't care about the actual product.
Yeah,
I mean, you think they care about the product? Just look at the Rogers themselves with their service and everything. I don't need to get into that. Anyone from Canada on their service would probably know what I'm talking about out here.
I'm surprised the Wi-Fi hasn't gone out yet. And we live, I kid you not, Joe and I literally live 2 minutes apart walking.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he just lives up the road.
Yeah.
And we have the same problems all the time. Anyways, moving on.
So I don't think anything will change. Like, Rogers, like, they're not going to fire, they mainly care about the money and everything. And attendance and the renovations and, like, Although I do think the attendance thing may drop because I do notice there were a couple games I think down the stretch where there was a lot of fans that just did not show up at all,
Well, yeah,
which
their
was
team's
kind of
losing.
weird for like a playoff push. So I'm wondering if literally nothing changes at all. Like there's no change in philosophy, that mostly the same player personnel and the same management and front office. It's gonna be ugly.
You know
But you
what
know
I'm
what?
excited for?
That's something to discuss, I guess, for when we get around that point. Then,
I'm excited for the new stadium renovations. All right, let's
let's move on from
let's
this.
move on.
Let's just move on from this rotting corpse. The
Toronto
whole
Maple
what was it,
Leafs.
movie, whatever, awful movie, like
Let's move
the
on from
Disney live action
Cyberpunk. Okay.
remake. Basically, no one wants it. Soulless. The Leafs. Now, let's just move on to them. Like, dear God, you gotta wonder, like, how is it that now they're no longer the biggest laughing stock when it comes to a sports team in Southern Ontario? Like how did that happen?
That is a great question. Actually,
Like
they
they've
still
been the
are
laughing
though.
stock for. I mean, they still are, but I think they've been replaced as the biggest laughing
Yeah,
stock by the Blue Jays. I mean, hey, they can win playoff games. They even won a series They won a series this year.
I know. So happy,
But
and they still couldn't
This
win a
is
second
so,
series.
so,
God damn it.
so surprising, even though they got completely dominated immediately afterwards. But
Let's be honest. Florida dominated until the finals.
I don't know, they just forgot how to play like right to the very end.
They did their job. I think we talked about this in our last podcast. They kind of just wanted to win a series, and they were like, "Okay, our tea time's tomorrow."
Mm-hmm.
Uh,
So the Leafs have had quite the off season. So of course they won a playoff series for the first time since 2004, since I was like 87 days old. But then they immediately get swept. No, not swept, almost swept. They lose in 5 games to the Florida Panthers, a team which I mean was considered pretty disappointing. I mean, like they maybe could have made a run to the cup, but they got it dominated by the Florida Panthers, a team that was like basically the lowest seed in the Eastern Conference and had to only made it through after like the Bruins horrifically choked a 3-1 series lead over them.
right.
So it was considered disappointing. And of course, then I think the press conferences immediately afterwards, I think Kyle Dubas was kind of seemingly suggested he may not return, and I guess because he was not 100% committed on board, Brandon Shanahan like fired him. He's gone.
Kyle Dubas is the same thing as Ross Adkins. I think I said this earlier. But
Actually, I don't know. I
I
liked Kyle Dubas. I liked him at least. I initially thought like it was a bit silly and stupid, like the whole kind of thing of him, what happened to him. But I mean, he seems to be doing fine in Pittsburgh now, at least. So replacing him is Brad Treeliving, who used to be the general manager of the Calgary Flames for a while. Before, I was not happy. I was not happy with that move. Mainly because I think it was mainly just because like he may have a simple, decent rosters in Calgary, but did the Flames ever do anything during his tenure? No, I think they won like maybe 1 or 2 series. And the one time when they were there was like one time when they were really good in like 2019, I think, and they got destroyed in the first round, even though they were like the best team in the West. And I think in like 2022, they had a really good roster, but then got completely destroyed by the Oilers in the Battle of Alberta. Even though the Oilers were literally just McDavid and Draisaitl for the most part, you know.
Yeah.
So they were pretty I was not optimistic, and also I'm sorry I had to say it. I thought it was kind of nepotism because like, or just cars in general, because Brad's father is Jim Treeliving, who I think is like the owner of Boston Pizza, and was like a television personality as well. I think he used to host like the show Dragon's Den on, or as a judge on the show Dragon's Den on CBC for a while too.
For anyone who doesn't know Dragon's Den, it's just like Shark Tank.
Yeah, it's like Canadian version of Shark Tank. But like I think, and Jim was like close friends with Larry Tannenbaum, who's the chairman of MLSC, which is like the group that owns the Leafs, and as well as the Raptors or the Argos or TFC or all the other Toronto sports teams. Like,
other than the Blue Jays.
Other
Toronto
than Blue
sports teams
Jays, which is
except the Blue Jays, which is really
mhm.
weird, actually.
So yeah, I was kind of suspicious. I thought it was just nepotism, of course, which wouldn't surprise me at all. But has my opinion changed? Yeah, kind of. I think he's done a fairly decent job so far. I mean, the main question is, will it actually, you know, translate into results? Because that was the thing; it never worked in Calgary. Like he might actually assemble good rosters, but it never translated into actual like real results.
I think it will
Um,
this year. I was originally kind of excited when it first was like, okay, someone new, and then Matthews
I was
isn't
willing to give him a
re-signed.
chance, though. I was disappointed, and I had a lot of like concerns, but I was willing to give him a chance at least. Um, I'm pretty happy with his work so far.
Yeah,
Like, you know, the big question, of course, is Austin Matthews. You know, he's a free agent. What do they do? Do they try to extend him? Do they just trade him away, perhaps, or blow it up? Because I mean, keep in mind, a lot of people wanted them to blow it up completely and trade away everyone, and that was definitely a possibility, especially after firing Kyle Dubas. But they decided they're going to keep going for it, and they got Matthews extended, and I think he's now the highest paid player per year, I believe, in the NHL now. I believe more
yeah.
so than I think more so than McDavid and McKinnon, who are like the highest beforehand. It was for like 4 years, so I think he's with the team until like 2027 or 2028, I believe. So they don't have to worry about him. The one thing that I guess that's still up in the air, I guess, is William Nylander, since he's also a free agent next year too. But it looks like
It doesn't look
nothing
like it.
happened on that. Like they didn't get an extension up, but they also didn't trade him either. So I guess they're gonna play out the season. And they did make a couple other. He did make a couple other moves, like bringing in guys like John Klingberg, Tyler Bertuzzi, and Max Domi as well. Pretty good pickups. And I guess they were able to do it because even though they sent him for like tons of money, I guess it was before Matthews' extension like kicked in. I guess. So like you just bring in all those guys for like a year or so, and like then I guess they're gone, so you don't have to worry about the cap moving forward. I think was like probably like what Treeling was thinking.
Unless they re-sign them after that too. You never know. It's one of those things where it's like,
I mean, I think they were. I think it was all mostly 1 year stopgap deals. Maybe one of them, I can't remember if it was maybe multi-year, but I think most of them it was like a year, like one.
and so far in the preseason they've been doing great. The
Mm.
NHL preseason's way too long. I'm gonna stick
Yeah,
with that.
they
It's
play too many
long.
games. I don't know. They play like I'm surprised they play way too many
Like
preseason
MLB
games.
spring training, okay, yeah, sure. They play games. It's not really super competitive, and they're just trying to like get themselves warmed up. Preseason's like go, 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 go. Mark
It's way
Stone
more. I
gets
don't know.
actually
I think they probably
crushed.
play a lot less preseason games than like in the NBA and NFL, but like it's less there
I think there's
than
like
I'm pretty sure it is with like the NHL.
I think in the NFL it's like 4 preseason games.
Yeah, but I guess it's over like 4 weeks too.
Yeah.
And honestly, what do I expect of the Leafs? I'll just say what I don't know expect, and I guess maybe you can go give your own opinion afterwards.
Yep.
I have no idea. Honestly, this is probably one of the more unpredictable years, like because they've made a lot of moves, and also who knows what happens with the division. Of course, like they might actually very well could win it because the division is going to look a lot different, I think, this year than it did last year and the last couple of years. So I think the Leafs probably should make the playoffs. They're usually good in the regular season. They don't screw that up, at least. I think they'd probably make it. As for how high they place, who knows? Who knows?
I think that they are going to make it to I think they're going to make it third round and have a possibility of going to the Stanley Cup.
That's the optimistic thing I have in mind because like also I don't know who'll be their main opponent in the Atlantic, at least because like the Bruins have gotten like a lot weaker. I mean, there's no Patrice Bergeron anymore. He retired. No David Krejci. He retired. And like
Realistically,
3-1
probably Ottawa.
that
how
that
much
3-1 yeah that 3-1 loss that Boston had that's you
Linus
don't often
Ullmark.
you do not recover from those. You
Lo-
don't often recover from those types of losses, and they're cold. And that was like their last big shot with those guys. And again, Bergeron and Krejci, they're both retired now. They're not going to be the same without those guys. They've got Brad Marchand left still, but he's like 36 years old, so who knows how long until he falls apart.
He likes licking people.
With age. I mean, yeah, I guess they've Pasternak still, and they got the Linus Ullmark and Jeremy Swayman, but like
Linus Ullmark has a
Ullmark's
mask
not going to get injured as long as he doesn't get injured. At least, they could be solid, but I don't think they'd be as good. They're definitely not, they're definitely not going to be like record-breaking points and wins. They're not going to be at that level. I think I'm more than confident in saying that will happen. And also, I guess the same with the Tampa Bay Lightning too. I don't know. It feels like maybe their whole run of like postseason things the fatigue might have caught up to them. I mean, they gave the Leafs their first series win in like almost 20 years. And like even last year they just didn't ever look as good as they've been in the past, and that kind of carried through the playoffs. So I don't know if that continues. It might. They lost a lot of players.
Yeah.
The Florida Panthers, who the hell knows? I would say they probably could be like making a run, but I know they got like a lot of injuries too. So if they start off really poorly, they're gonna have to like fight to get like to snag a wild card spot. And then on the other hand, you got teams like Ottawa and Detroit, which are on the rise.
I could realistically see Ottawa making a push. I
don't know. I like to make fun of them because, like, for the last the last 2 or so years, their fans have been like aggressively hyping them up. Oh, this is the year where the rebuild's over. It's time to start winning. That's what their GM said. And of course, in 2022, they came not even close. In 2023, they're closer, but it was a terrible start. I think that like completely doomed them. Of course.
Yeah.
And Buffalo also, I think, was like only a point or two behind Florida for that final spot. So they might do something. Detroit is starting to get better. I don't think this is the year though for them. Maybe wait another year or two, then maybe Detroit will actually be like will probably be something. And then there's Montreal. No.
Anyways, I don't want to laugh at them too much.
Moving on. I got no hope for them. They're no. Right, they're still stuck on the rebuild. Carey Price is done now. It's gone. Just I don't know what to say.
I think we should start wrapping up. I'm going to say one more thing. Right. Is that
maybe you want to talk about you say you want to talk about like the F1.
F1.
So
vroom,
you might as well go ahead.
Finish it off. F1.
I'll let you take it away here.
Qatar, crowned a new champion. Well, not new. Third time through champion, Max Verstappen, who becomes the 5th ever three-peat world champion.
Hasn't that basically been the case for like the last two, like every time nowadays, where it was like the same guy kind of dominating for a while?
The other 4,
like it was Lewis Hamilton beforehand. It wasn't like Sebastian Vettel before him, or
it was
something like that. I think
it was Verstappen.
Yeah.
Hamilton.
Yep.
Vettel. Schumacher, and then I think Juan Fangio. I think. I don't remember the last one. He was someone who was a little older. That's really testing my F1 knowledge.
Okay, I know most of the guys except for the last guy.
Yeah, the other guy was kind of
that's one guy I don't know. The only reason I think I know Schumacher. I mean,
everyone knows
he was good. I know he's the guy who was really good, and also he was in the first Cars movie.
I was gonna say that he was in Cars.
So yeah,
it's like everyone knowing Dale Jr. He was in Cars.
Yeah, or Richard Petty as well. Like
but I don't think the season's over yet. I don't even think it's close. It usually ends in Saudi Arabia.
Well, there's probably still a couple more weeks left to it. Then
there
is. I don't know.
He won.
He won like almost all of them?
Yeah, won all except one.
I'm going to look that up right now. Hold on a minute.
Red Bull, I think, has won all except one race. I'm just looking it up right now.
So
Verstappen has lost 2, I think, maybe 3 at this point.
Actually, he's won every single race except for 3.
Yeah, which 2 of them were Sergio Perez.
2 of them Sergio Perez.
And the last one was Carlos Sainz.
And he was at like Ferrari. So yeah, so basically Red Bull's won like every race except one, and wow. Verstappen himself has won all but three. I think there's. I'm on Wikipedia. There's like 5 more races left. There's
Qatar, which is
United
tomorrow,
States Grand Prix,
which is United States. I believe that's the one in Vegas. The new
actually
track
there's
in
2
Vegas.
American ones left. I think this one's Austin.
Oh, so one's in the
There's
Coda.
Mexico City. There's Sao Paulo. There's Las Vegas, and actually, there's the Saudi one was apparently at the very beginning. I think it's Abu Dhabi. That's the last one in the UAE.
Dhabi.
That's the last one, I think.
But, anyways, that was kind of where it was going. Max Verstappen wins with 5 races left, which is insane domination, which I don't think we've seen
it wasn't
until
even a contest. I don't know. It wasn't like
it was
maybe
Lewis Hamilton.
or Verstappen, or maybe like that for some time. I don't know.
It was Hamilton for a while, and then 2 years ago it was the final race, and it was Verstappen versus Hamilton, and there was the whole safety car thing. I don't know if you know about that.
Wasn't I don't know.
I watched that live.
Wasn't there like some massive controversy over the final race that would basically like determine who was going to win the entire thing?
The ruling is
something like that.
If there are lapped cars, safety cars, every lapped car. I think in the rules it said, and in the comments can absolutely correct me. In the rules it said if determined by so, which by so is the FIA, and all lapped cars have to unlap them or are able to unlap themselves, which just means they get a full free pass through the field, and all of a sudden now it's even. But it was like the first 5 cars who were so it ended up putting Verstappen versus Hamilton neck and neck. It pretty much it was like easy win for Hamilton, and then the governing body was like, "You're funny," and just threw. It's like we'll swap places. So that was pretty much it. I believe that's the rule. Again, in the comments, you can correct me all you want. That's fine. I don't know the rule off by heart, but it was a whole controversy. Last year, it was again just dominance. This year, it was just dominance. Last year was a cost thing. It was a cost controversy. This year, because no politics, but the war in Israel, it just so happened to be that the war in Israel started happening, and then he wins the world championship.
Literally the same day.
It's like he's the Nick Castellanos of. Wait, has Nick Castellanos hit a home run? That's.
I don't know. Is he even still? No.
I'm pretty sure he's on the Phillies. Did he hit a home run today? Is he on?
The
Phillies.
He's on the Phillies. I actually have no idea. I think they're playing the Braves like right now.
Has he hit a home run yet? They are.
The Phillies are up 3-0. They're winning against the Braves. The best team in the league. We're going to be a repeat of last year.
I want the Phillies to win. I got to be hyped for that.
The one thing I will also briefly mention that's how much that's separate, unrelated. I guess one more thing that's truly insane was I guess the hosts for the 2030 FIFA World Cup were announced, and it was truly something stupid.
Is this Saudi Arabia
6
again?
countries. Oh no, that's probably 2034. So briefly, probably, and I'll explain very quickly. So 2026, so the next World Cup is freeway host. Canada, the United States, and Mexico.
North America makes sense.
It's North America, so it's all 3 of them. 2030. There's 2 main bids for 2030. So there's just this both also freeway bids. One of them was Spain, Portugal, and Morocco. The other was Argentina, Uruguay, and Paraguay. So the way I think it worked was that the Spain, Portugal, Morocco bid won. So all 3 of those countries host it, but Uruguay, Paraguay, and Argentina all get 1 match each to open the World Cup, because I think it would be the 100th anniversary of the first World Cup, which was in Uruguay.
Then why wouldn't they just put it in Uruguay and say you get it next year or the next year?
But the thing is, that's 3 of them that are in South America though, and then the other but then the rest of the time is all the way out in Europe and northwestern Africa. So it was just actually insane. It was insane and stupid. And the part where it makes it even worse is that I think the way it works is that I'm pretty sure if there's one country that hosts World Cup, then I think that means the continent the country is from cannot host the following 2. So I guess because for 2024, North America can't host it because 2026 is
Yeah.
free away bid between Canada, Mexico, and the United States. Whereas Europe wouldn't host it either since Spain and Portugal, neither would Africa because Morocco's the host, and neither would South America since
You know
those
where
three
I think it's
countries are
going?
hosting it too. So that means there's only one place it can go, which is like the Asian continent or Oceania, and it's Saudi. It's going to be Saudi Arabia.
You know what I think?
I'd be surprised if it's anyone other than that.
You know where I think it's going?
Where?
North Korea, baby! Let's go! North Korea! Anyways.
It's just, it's like, I'd say it's them. I think they're already bidding for it, and like, it's going to be them. The only country that maybe, like, it's going to be a complete disaster. If you think Qatar was going to be controversial for human rights issues, it's nothing compared to Saudi Arabia, let me tell you.
It's Ronaldo's playground.
Yeah, so like then I think the only other countries that might legitimately have a chance against them, if they even decide to bid, one is China, which I mean, no angel at all from that angle. Human rights, I would not say that. And the only other country maybe is Australia, which just came off successfully hosting a pretty decent Women's World Cup. But I don't think they would bid for the men's. I don't think they would bid for the men's one. They're apparently interested in doing it, but I don't think they will because they're hosting the Summer Olympics in 2032, and that's also extremely expensive as well. Like both of them are like insanely expensive events to hold, and I don't think they want to hold both at the same in 2 years. So
that is a lot of money out of the.
I don't think they would especially again the Olympics are insane expensive. The World Cup's the one thing that's probably more expensive than that. So I don't think they would probably go for both at the same time.
It's just crazy to think that the World Cup is more expensive than the Olympics.
I mean, it's probably like the most popular sport, I guess. That's the biggest title for it, I guess. So like
they should combine the World Cup with the Olympics.
Mm-hmm.
Think about the amount of money they both make.
Mm-hmm. But like, I don't know. It looks like it's gonna be Saudi Arabia, and I guess it'd be a big what. I mean, I know they've been spending ridiculous amounts of money for their public investment fund sports washing. Like I mean, they got the Grand Prix in F1. They got an English Premier League club that they basically purchased that they now own. They've gotten a lot of stuff in WWE.
Saudi? Oh my god! Don't get me started. Don't get me started. Literally, do not get me started. Do not get me started with Saudi Arabian companies taking over WWE. TKO buys UFC and WWE. That's the dumbest thing ever. It's great for whatever, but now that you have a second hand controlling it, no. I'm waiting till Conor McGregor and Sugar Sean come over from the UFC and just start knocking people out. Then I want to see John Cena go to the UFC after that.
Mm-hmm. Well, that's all I think I have to say now. It's like just about everything I guess we're going to cover. So
great conversational podcast. Yeah. Talk about a lot of sports things and a lot of things that piss us off. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you have yet to subscribe, consider doing so. We are very inconsistent with our podcast, but we kind of sum everything up about Toronto sports.
Yeah, just the mess. I mean, hey, like they're terrible. Like they depress us, but they're great fodder. They're great content. They're great for content. I mean, like it's great milking them at least. So expect this again in like whenever we get to talking about the Leafs,
whenever we have the
Blue Jays, like expect us milking it even more. I guess like
if you have your own little thing you want us to talk about, own little sports news, consider throwing it down in the comments, as well as giving me any rule advice for F1 because I still do not know. Anything you want to say before we wrap it up?
I don't really have anything else to say. No.
All right.
Subscribe,
like. Check out our socials, which is just a TikTok down.
Check out my inconsistent social media presence.
Exactly.
Inconsistent YouTube, inconsistent Twitch, inconsistent everything.
Exactly.
Do it.
Well, thank you guys so much for watching. Subscribe, and we'll see you in the next one in about 3 years. Bye, guys.
Bye.